the type of person where at the beginning of the relationship, you show them that girlfriend contract, you're splitting up the assets down the middle, blah, 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 blah. You're getting everything written down. And if we part ways, you don't get squat except for what you came with. And they're objective to that. You already know they're going to be objective to the prenup. So you know for a fact that that's not the kind of person that you want to be involved with for the long haul for financial success. This is how you weed out the problems from the successes. As Michael said on the show yesterday, no matter how good your garden is, you are going to have to weed your garden, water the crops so that you can grow a good harvest. So it is expected that you take care of yourself and take care of your resources and take care of the person that is in your castle, but that requires you to make sure that you have the right person in your castle. Right now, today being Monday, we came across quite a few things, the climate rollbacks and a few other things. So we're going to be talking about that. Since we're dealing with that shutdown, I told everybody starting last week to make sure that if you haven't already been doing it since October of last year, that as you get on those planes, that you take it upon yourself to show appreciation to the people in the airport. Thank them for their capabilities to perform for you, right? Not just, thank you like a courtesy, but like, I appreciate you guys for coming to work today, kind of thing, because they could have not came, right? This is going to make you show a little bit more compassion because they're not getting paid to be there until the DHS discussions have been worked out. And from what I understand, they haven't been worked out. Everyone else is getting paid, just not the airport. Even ICE is getting paid because the original Big Beautiful Bill gave them a multi-season contract, so they are still operating without those body cameras until the Democrats get what they're looking for, right? So blame the Democrats for the government shutdown. Blame the feds for murdering American citizens unnecessarily for the Democrats shutting down the government. Odds are, weren't Democratic shooters. Let's just pull the rug out there. Now, yeah, that's what we got so far. TikTok is leveling off, so we're going to start seeing if and when we can put a larger quantity of spin to adding TikTok to the show. But so far, we haven't quite gotten to that string key. Still trying to figure that part out. But we're gonna give you guys more updates on that as we get closer to having them added onto the show. So as it stands right now, we're kind of just dealing with Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube long form, as well as a shorts reel. So if I popped up on your For You page, I'm going to be here for a couple hours. So, you can either hang out now or you can hang out after you've rolled over and came back to the show a second time. Either way, it's up to you. But something has happened. And right now, while it's happening, you really need to know about it. So while people are being distracted, powerful forces in the government and industry are making some moves that could fundamentally rewire your financial future in a lot of ways. And that's one of the things that I think that you guys should pay close attention to, because this isn't something abstract or any kind of theory for the distant future. These are concrete changes happening now that will affect the price that you pay for medication, the value of your home and your investments, and even the interest you're paying on your credit cards. So we're talking about stuff that's happening right now. Most people are going to be completely blindsided by this once it goes into effect, and they'll wake up in a year or two wondering why their paychecks don't stretch as far as they thought it would, and why their investments seem stuck in neutral instead of having all of that growth. Then why they feel like they're failing and falling further and further behind instead of maintaining that rapid growth. But you guys won't be one of them because you're here. In tonight's show, I'm going to expose the hidden threats and overlook opportunities inside three monumental shifts that are creating a financial reset. I'm going to give you a clear, actionable plan, not just protection of your wealth, but position yourself to come out ahead of what's about to happen. And this is the information that mainstream media isn't connecting. And it's what you need to know to secure your financial future starting today. Now, for those of you who are here that are new, uh, I'm Xander with This and That, and where we do talk about this, that, and everything in between, we cut through the noise to analyze the economic shifts that truly matter to your wallet. And we don't deal in hype, we deal with data. We don't follow headlines, we follow the money. So, the entire time I've been doing this podcast, I've been dissecting complex financial legislations and economic trends to find out what they really mean for everyday people. My goal is simple: to give you the tools and knowledge to build real lasting wealth and to navigate the often confusing world of personal finance with confidence. Now, today's topic is one of the most critical that I've ever covered because we're not talking about minor or small market fluctuations. We're talking about a structural realignment of huge sectors of our economy. It's a reset being driven by three powerful pillars: a complex overhaul of the prescription drug pricing system, a dramatic reversal in climate policy that will have massive long-term costs, and a growing battle over the crippling weight of consumer debt. Each of these pillars on its own is a major change, but together they create a perfect storm of risks and rewards that will define the financial landscape for the next decade. The problem is that the real implications aren't immediately obvious. The threats are buried in the fine print of thousands of pages of bills, while the opportunities are hidden in sectors the average investor isn't even looking at. And that's why we're going to break it down using a simple framework: problem, agitation, and solution. First, we'll identify the massive external event, which is the problem. Then we'll dig into the agitation, which is why this is a serious threat to your financial well-being. This is where we uncover what's really at stake for you and your family. Finally, and most importantly, we'll get to the solution. And that's the moment where I'll give you clear strategies that you can use right away to shield yourself from the fallout, and even use these shifts to make your uh, opportunities be more advantageous. Now, make sure that you guys stick around as you come through. Make sure you like and subscribe as you're here, because the way these three pillars interact is where the biggest dangers and the biggest opportunities truly lie. Let's get into it. Our first pillar is a seismic shift in the American healthcare system, a system that for decades has been quietly draining billions from your pockets without you even realizing it. The target of this reform is a group of powerful corporate middlemen that you've probably heard of but might not fully understand: pharmacy benefit managers, or BP, B, uh, PBMs. That's we're gonna go over that again. Pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. So, simply put, PBMs are third party administrators hired by your insurance plan to manage prescription drug benefits. They started with a noble goal to negotiate with drug manufacturers to lower the prices. And that's what we believe that they're there for. But over the last 2 decades, they've morphed into something else. Today, just three massive PBMs control about 80% of the entire prescription drug market in the United States. This incredible power has allowed them to create a system that is opaque, conflicted, and fantastically profitable for them, often at your expense. So here's how the game has been played in the past: drug makers want their products on your insurance plans and being listed amongst the approved drugs or formulas. To get a good spot on that list, they offer huge secret discounts as rebates to the PBMs. You'd think those rebates would be passed on to you or your health plan to lower costs, but that's not what's happening. Instead, PBMs have been allowed to keep a piece of that rebate as profits. This creates a perverse, frankly absurd incentive. The higher the list price of a drug, the bigger the potential rebate and the more money the PBM can make. Research from the USC Schaefer Center found that for every dollar increase in manufactured rebates, the list price is often of the drug actually going up by $1.17. Think about that. The very tool meant to create discounts is actively driving prices higher. So the actual cost of the drug goes up $1.17 because of the $1 price deduct. You got to understand, a rebate is a deduction. You're supposed to get that back if you buy it, right? So pay this price, get this much back. Pay $100 with pay $110 with a $10 rebate, you get $10 back. And this method has them saying, well, if you pay $110 on the rebate, you're going to have to get back 117. That's crazy. Now, PBMs have a direct financial incentive to favor expensive, high rebate brand name drugs over cheaper drugs, equally effective generic drugs, because the cheap drug doesn't come with a fat rebate for the PBMs to pocket. We see this in the real world. Classic example is the drug Humira. Even after a cheaper biosimilar became available, Humira shockingly keeps 96% of its market share for a specific time, precisely because PBMs kept Humira on their preferred list to keep capturing the massive rebates. This system is a hidden heist, a wealth transfer, almost like a bribe, from the patients who actually put their money on this and employers to these powerful middlemen. So it's going to go, so the patients are going to lose out on this, but the powerful men are going to grab onto them. Now, you've been paying for it in two ways: through higher insurance premiums and through higher out-of-pocket costs, because your copay is often based on the inflated list price, not the secret lower price the PBM negotiated. And that's crazy. But that is all about the change, because a couple of weeks ago, on February 3rd, 2026, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2026 was signed into law. Buried in this massive spending bill is a landmark package of PBM reforms that will dismantle their current business model. Starting in 2028, so it's going to take us 2 years to get there, but in 2028 and in 2029, these new rules will force a complete rewiring of how drug money flows. And I never thought we would be pumping the iron for drug money. The two core components are going to be revolutionary. First, for Medicare Part D plans, PBMs will be delinked from drug pricing, meaning they're not going to do it anymore. They'll be banned from earning money tied to rebates and can only be paid flat, transparent service fees for the work they actually do. Second, and this is a big one for most people with private insurance, the law mandates a 100% pass through of all rebates for all commercial health plans. PBMs will be legally required to send every single penny of the rebate and discounts that they get from drug makers directly to the health plan. You can't keep a cut anymore. The law also forces unprecedented transparency, requiring PBMs to provide detailed reports on everything from net spending to prices they pay pharmacies. And this isn't a minor tweak. It's a demolition of the shadowy system that has allowed PBMs to profit from high drug prices. So a new law was passed. Why is this such an urgent issue for your finances right now? Especially since it's going to take a couple years for it to go into effect. Because this reset, while positive in the long run, is creating a period of massive uncertainty between now and its full implementation. When billions of dollars are rerouted, there will be winners and losers. You need to understand the hidden threats to make sure you end up on the winning side. First, let's talk about the scale of the money. One study from the USC Schaefer Center estimated that simply delinking PBM compensation from drug prices could slash annual net drug spending in the United States by a breathtaking $95.4 billion. Another study focused just on Medicare estimated the change would hand drug manufacturers an extra $3 to $10 billion. So from $3 to $10 billion in profits, as PBMs would lose the incentive to negotiate such aggressive rebates. Now, this is a monumental amount of cash being redirected. The agitation for you is going to be this: where do those savings go? The law says the money must be passed from the PBM to the health plan sponsor, your employer, or your insurer. But the law does not mandate what your employer must do with that money. This is the unspoken thread. Will they use those massive rebate dollars to lower your monthly premiums? That would be great. Will they use them to reduce your co-pays at the pharmacy? Also a fantastic idea. Or will they simply absorb the savings to pad their own bottom line, treating it as a corporate windfall while your costs stay exactly the same? Most likely the result, because as we see, the greed stays greedy. Now, this is the multi-trillion dollar question. You could be in a situation where your employer's drug costs are plummeting, but your personal costs don't budge. You could be paying the same high premiums for a health plan that is suddenly much cheaper for your employer. And that is a very complex thing to identify. And I know a lot of people are sitting here telling themselves, well, how does that doesn't impact me at all? But it does. For years, or for the next few years, you will be operating in an information vacuum. And that information gap is a direct threat to your wallet. Furthermore, the transition itself could cause chaos. As PBMs abandon their old profit model, they'll scramble to create a new one. And they may try to make up for lost revenue with new complex service fees that are hard for employers to scrutinize, getting their money back off the employer. And they might change formularies drastically year to year, meaning a medication you rely on could suddenly become non preferred. Your access to care could become less stable as the foundation of your drug benefits is ripped out of your hands and replaced. So, think about the financial planning implications. If you or a family member relies on expensive medications, your budget is built around that cost. You might be maxing out a health service account to cover it. But what if in 2029 your out of pocket costs for that drug are slashed by 70% because the rebates are finally passed directly to you at the point of sale? You might have overfunded your health accounts, trapping money that could have been invested somewhere else. Conversely, if your employer keeps all of the savings, you may have underplanned, expecting the relief that never comes. This is how it impacts you. The agitation is the uncertainty. You cannot afford to be passive during this reset. And this isn't a time for panic, though. It is a time more for proactive strategy. Understanding this shift gives you a huge advantage. So, here's your plan to navigate the PBM reset. First step is you have to become a healthcare detective during open enrollment. Your annual open enrollment is no longer a passive activity where automatic rollovers. You want to make sure you pay attention to it now. It is going to be your most important change to get ahead of this. Starting this year, You need to scrutinize your plan, pay attention to the options with a very completely different lens. Don't just look at the premium and deductibles. You need to call the insurance provider for each plan that your employer offers and ask very specific questions. Ask them, what is your policy on passing through drug rebates to plan members? Straightforward. Do you use them to lower premiums, or are they applied at the point of sale to lower my copays? You want to know how this money impacts you. Most reps won't know the answer immediately, but their ability or inability to get you an answer is very telling. A plan that is already transparent is more likely to pass the savings on to you. A plan that is less likely to be trusted is not going to really answer your question and guarantee you that everything is going to be under control. That's a plan you want to abandon and go to one that's more transparent. Also, you want to be able to ask, can you provide the detailed drug formulary for next year? Pay close attention to the plans with more cost sharing tiers, like 5 or 6 instead of just 3. This can be a sign of a more sophisticated plan designed in a way that is already preparing for this new world. Prioritize plans that offer transparency, explicit, detailed transparency. Steven said, my old plan sucked. They use foreign call centers that could not understand basic questions. Most American companies offset their call centers to foreign companies because the labor is cheaper. You got to understand, like T-Mobile, one of the biggest phone companies in the world, not pharmacy, but think about it. They have a lot of call centers in the Philippines. The middle class wage expectations in the Philippines is $24,000 a year. So you can imagine that the hourly wage of a lower middle class individual is going to be something closer to between $5 and $10 an hour. Whereas in America, we're getting like $20 an hour to do the same thing. Okay. Now, I don't want to talk to any country that can't answer my question. When I'm on the phone for my phone company and they don't have the skill set to resolve my problem, they have to transfer me to a supervisor that's going to resolve my situation, or transfer me to another call center that's going to resolve my the answers to my questions. And I'll wait a couple days and I'll call back. I'll wait a couple days and I'll call back at different times of the day to see which time of day do they redirect me to the Philippines, so that I can make sure that I'm not hitting that Filipino branch unless it's for something simple. But if you have an insurance plan and your insurance plan has people who don't speak clear English, they don't understand your question, or they were trained to deflect, not to assist, even if they spoke perfect English, giving you reassurance doesn't answer your question. Trust me, everything's going to be fine. That's not what I asked you. I didn't ask you if it was going to be fine. I asked you if I could get a change. And that's the difference between the two. So if you don't trust your call center for your insurance plan, you probably don't have the transparency that you're looking for, and you might have to change to a different plan. And that's not what people think about on a regular basis, but it is something that you probably should have to manage. Now, the second step you're going to do is you want to reevaluate your health savings account if you have one, and your FSAs, the strategies. HSAs are a fantastic tool, but this reset requires a more nuanced approach. The standard advice is to max out your health savings accounts. However, with the potential for your out of pocket costs to drop significantly after 2028, you need to be more strategic. For the next couple of years, funding your HSA based on your current costs is a good strategy, but you have to keep a close eye on your employer's communications. As 2028 approaches, look for any announcements about changes in the health plans or their design in response to the new laws. If your employer announces they will use rebates to lower point of sale costs, you can then adjust your HSA contributions downward and redirect the cash flow towards other goals like your 401k or paying off debts. The key is flexibility. Step three is advocating and asking those questions. You are the customer of the health plan, so your employer chooses it on your behalf, and it is time for you to use your voice to combat that. Talk to your human resources department. Ask them what their strategy is for the coming PBM reforms. Frame it positively. I've been reading about the new PBM rebate laws that will save the company money on drug costs starting in 2028. I'm excited to see how that will translate into lower premiums or copays for us. Has the company decided how it will be sharing those savings? I mean, the lightest way to do it. And this does two things. First, it signals that the workforce is educated and paying attention. Companies are more likely to share savings if they know their employees are expecting to see those savings. Second, it opens a dialogue. The more employees who ask, the more pressure the company will feel to do the right thing. They have to give a response, and likely that response would be a positive announcement to keep from losing the entire workforce at the same time. Step four, look for investment opportunities. Every major economic shift creates investment opportunities. Think about who wins in the new world. Companies focused on healthcare transparency will thrive in the new world. And this could include smaller, more agile PBMs that built and it could also include health tech companies that provide software and analytics to help employers scrutinize their drug spending. As the employers get more rebate money back, they will need tools to help them decide how to use the money. Conversely, be wary of the incumbent giants because the three big PBMs are now facing the disruption of their most profitable business line. And if you invested in those three PBMs, your stocks are about to fall. So you want to make sure that you're pulling out early before the dip. And while they are massive companies, diversified companies, this change represents a significant headwind. This isn't a recommendation to buy and sell any stocks, but a prompt to do your own research into how this fundamental rewiring of a massive industry will create a new set of winners and losers. So if you see that the drop is pending, you could make a change or you can ride the wave. By taking these steps, you are transforming yourself from a passive price taker into an active, informed participant. Now, the second pillar of this reset is perhaps the most deceptive because it's a story of a visible short term gain that masks a colossal long term financial threat. on February 12th of 2026, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, repealed the 2009 endangerment finding. Now, that sounds like obscure jargon to a lot of people, but it was the single most important legal foundation for virtually all of federal climate regulations in the United States. Because for 17 years, this finding, based on overwhelming scientific consensus, formally established that greenhouse gases are harmful to public health, which legally compelled the EPA to regulate them under the Clean Air Act. By rescinding these findings, the administration effectively vaporized the legal basis for these regulations. The most immediate consequence was the elimination of all federal greenhouse gas emission standards for cars and trucks. I'm going to get that to you one more time. The elimination of all federal greenhouse gas emission standards for cars and trucks. So a lot of people's vehicles wouldn't be allowed to be driven in certain states because they didn't pass the emissions test. Those emissions tests should be disbanded because those emission laws no longer exist. This includes the fuel economy requirements that were pushing automakers to produce more efficient engines and, crucially, to invest in the transitions to electric vehicles. I know Elon's going to be a little bit pissed about that, but the administration sold this as a huge win for the consumer, calling it the single largest deregulatory action in the United States history. They claim it will save the country trillions by reducing the cost for automakers to comply with emission standards. The projected benefit is that the average price of a new vehicle would probably drop. On the surface, this looks like a straightforward win for your wallet. But this is where we have to look past the headlines, because the problem isn't the savings they told you about. It's about the cost they buried in the fine print. The deep, unsettling agitation here is a classic bait and switch, because you're being handed a small discount today in exchange for a massive bill that will come due for the rest of your life. The real costs are staggering. Where did the cost come from? It's going to be simple. You're going to be spending a lot more money on gasoline. Nobody's thinking about that. If the EPA standards are dropped, they're no longer pushing for 50 mile per gallon cars. They can roll back the non-fuel efficient vehicles all the way back down to 10 miles per gallon, where your 150-mile tank is only going to, well, your 150-mile tank on 150 miles per tank on a 10-gallon tank is going to be what you will go back to, which is like the 1980s. Gas hurts right now when you're able to run 300 miles to the tank on a 15-gallon tank, or 400 miles to the tank on a 15-gallon tank. Imagine dropping back down. You're going to be spending twice as much on gas. But this is just the beginning, because the figure excludes the two most significant costs of all: the impact on public health from increased air pollution and the astronomical economic damages from climate change itself. One analyst found that repealing the endangerment finding and the vehicle standard could impose up to $4.17 trillion in additional expenses from climate to air pollution damage by 2055. So within 30 years, even your kids will be middle-aged and experiencing the hurt. And this is the real agitation, because any savings on a less fuel efficient car will be eaten up by many times over by the higher costs hitting your family from every direction. Your fuel costs will be permanently higher. Your insurance premiums are likely to raise as companies face more claims from climate related disasters like floods, wildfires in California, and storms. Nobody's thinking about that. And the value of your biggest asset, which is your home, could be at risk if you live in a coastal area, a floodplain, or a region prone to wildfires. There's also a risk to our national economic competitiveness, which will trickle down to your job. So while the United States steps back from clean technology, other countries are sprinting ahead. Basic physics dictates that an electrified economy is more efficient. By slowing our transition, we risk becoming a less advanced, less efficient nation, which impacts everything from inflation to job security. This rollback also creates a new unpredictable legal landscape. With the federal shield of the endangerment finding gone, we could see a surge of climate related lawsuits against major emitters, and this creates massive uncertainty for the investors. Sectors heavy in fossil fuels could suddenly face billions in legal liabilities, creating stranded assets in your portfolio. And we're already seeing states like New York and Vermont pass their own climate superfund acts, which aim to hold fossil fuel companies liable for climate adaptation costs. And this trend is likely to spread. The emissions data is already pointing in the wrong direction. According to the research firm Rhodium Group, after years of decline, preliminary estimates show United States greenhouse gas estimates or emissions jumping by 2.4% in 2025 alone. And this reversal was partially driven by an increase in coal generation, Tesla. Uh, the financial consequences are starting already. So you're being asked to trade a small one-time discount on your car for future higher expenses, greater risks, and a less competitive economy. And keep in mind, the one-time less expensive discount for the cars for the new car, not the used car. Okay. The devaluation of the vehicles is not going to improve, where the vehicles are going to lower their cost slower, allowing for you, or more rapidly allowing for you to get the cars at a dirt cheap price, or being able to trade it in for a higher value. The depreciation values are not going to change. So you save $5,000 or $10,000 on the cost of a car that's gone up an extra $5,000 or $10,000 because of the tariffs. You're going to be paying the same prices in 2028 that you were paying in 2024 before the tariffs, but the car is going to have terrible gas mileage. That's almost breaking even with lesser benefits. That's the hidden threat. And this is not a moment for despair. It's a moment to get smart and strategic. This policy shift creates clear winners and losers. Your job is to make sure that your financial life is aligned with the winners. So here is your action plan. First step, you want to conduct a climate risk audit of your life. You need to sit down and take a sober look at your exposure to climate related financial risks. This isn't about ideologies or hypotheticals, it's about your actual dollars and cents. Look at your home. Is your property in a floodplain, or a wildfire risk area. Use online tools from FEMA to assess your location's risk profile. If the risk is high, you need to start planning. This could mean investing in mitigation measures like flood proofing or even reevaluating where you want to live long term. Your investments. You want to pull up your 401k and your brokerage accounts. How much is invested in sectors that are vulnerable to these changes? This is going to include fossil fuel producers, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, traditional automakers slow to electrify, and ensure companies on the front lines of paying for climate disaster. You want to pay attention to those: Dodge, Ford, Chevy, Prius, Toyota, you know, and you must be aware of your exposure. Now, as for your job, do you work in one of these industries dependent on the stable climate, like agriculture, tourism, or even construction in a vulnerable area? Think about how this long term trend could affect your career. This audit is your new financial baseline. It's about understanding where your vulnerabilities lie, and then we get into step two. Step two, you want to rebalance your portfolio towards climate adaptations and innovations. The flip side of risk is a massive opportunity. The private sector and state governments are stepping up, driven by economics and self preservation. This creates a tailwind for specific industries. So, clean technology and renewable energy is the cost of solar, wind, and battery storage that continues to plummet. Despite the federal policy, the economic case for renewables is becoming undeniable. So, looking for companies leading this transition is going to be a gold mine in your profits. Grid modernization, allowing our aging electrical grid uh, to continue, is not being prepared for an electrified economy or extreme weather. Companies involved in upgrading the grid are poisoned for decades of growth. Special shout out to Born. He said, I hope you're good tonight. Yes, brother, we're doing all right. Hopefully, you're swinging in there as well. The climate adaptation. This is the part that we need to take a little bit of a look at. This is a huge, often overlooked sector. It includes companies in water technology, advanced agricultural tech, those hydroponic farms grow more with less water and sometimes less land space. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. And it also pays attention to engineering firms that build resilient infrastructures. You want to monitor state level actions. Pay close attention to the state implementing their own aggressive climate policies, because the order starts with whatever the federal government decides, and then the state level can get more strict. The city level and county levels can get more strict. So you have like government, state, city, county kind of situation, or county, city, one of those two. And at the state level, these state level initiatives are going to be creating many economies of innovation. And in step three, you want to rethink your next car purchase. The math on your next vehicle has fundamentally changed. Don't be fooled by the lower sticker price on a gas powered car. you need to calculate the total cost of ownership, the TOC. When you compare a traditional car to a hybrid or an EV, look beyond the purchase price. Create a spreadsheet. Factor in estimated annual fuel costs, average maintenance costs, because EVs require significantly less, and any available state or local tax credits that still exist after the tax credit disappeared for EVs in September can benefit your ability to maintain. When you run the numbers over a 5 or 10 year period, you will often find that the EV or hybrid is a cheaper vehicle. That savings on the gas car can be wiped out in just a couple of years of higher fuel and maintenance costs. So, yeah, by performing this audit, rebalancing your investments and making smarter consumer choices, you are insulating yourself from the long-term costs of the policy reversals. Now, Stephen says, if it's not a Toyota that's at least 10 years old, I don't consider it. The way things are going right now. Okay, so here's a interesting thought, Stephen, because I love that theory. I love that theory. So a 2016 or 2019 Toyota Camry, Toyota Corolla, that's Toyota Scion. Good grab. Good grab. Um, but likewise though, Ford Fusion, Volkswagen Jetta, fuel efficient cars. I have to see if a Ford Fusion is discontinued or not, because the Volt, VOLT, the Volt used to be a really good car as well, but that car is discontinued, and I don't think you can find a model that's newer than 2018 or 2019. Now, the downside to a hybrid electric car is the older car with the higher miles on it might require that extra $5,000 to replace the electric battery. However, if you're pricing that into the purchase of the used car, you might buy a car that's like $15,000 for a used car that would have otherwise been $40,000 for a new car. And if you factor in that extra $10,000 or $5,000 for the replacement for the motor, or pay extra money for car shield and then do that engine repair under your insurance, then when that electric motor goes out, the money that you've been paying into your car insurance would cover that particular repair. But that also means paying attention to what you're getting yourself into, because with the way car shield works is that you get the insurance on the car, on a car that is outside of its normal manufacturing warranty. You ride that policy for 2 months before you can take out your first claim, meaning you get it, and 30 days after you get it, after you've paid your first bill, then you can take out a claim. So like 30, 45 days in, you can take out your first claim. Now, if you get a Toyota, you don't really have to worry. You can deal with regular maintenance. If you got a Prius and you got to replace the electric battery, you might want to get you some car shield. If you got a Fusion and you got a hybrid electric, you might want to get the car shield to cover the repairs. Now, if you're depending on what kind of policy you have, you can pay dirt cheap quantities of money, or you can pay like $100, $200, $300 a month for your insurance policy. It really depends. The higher the premiums are for your car shield insurance policy, the more repairs it will actually cover. You need to factor in, first and foremost, what covers the electric motor, how much is that going to cost, and then any other amenities that you want to throw in there as well, transmissions and stuff to that effect, drivetrain, everything else. But I do agree with you that starting off with a 10-year-old Toyota, probably the best thing to grab. Lexus, because that's a Toyota brand right there. Yeah, I'd be right now, if I go from the 26-year-old cars that I've got in the yard right now to a newer vehicle, I'd probably have a 10 or 15-year-old car in the yard. Next to hold the fort down. So we're about to dive into our third and final pillar. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe. And this is going to revolve around the ticking time bomb of consumer debt. So before we do, if you find any of the analysis valuable, take a second. If you haven't hit that subscription button, do so. Go ahead and look for that notification bell. Ding it. Hit that like button, hit those reaction buttons, because those heart stars and horseshoes scrolling across the screen triggers the algorithm to let other people know that they need to be paying attention to this live. And then take the opportunity to share this to some people that you know, because they might not know what's about to happen. And we release in-depth live podcasts like this every single day, but we specifically talk about how politics impacts our money every single Monday. And subscribing is the best way to make sure that you don't miss the next big shift. It's free for you until you dive into the membership. The membership is dirt cheap. Stevie can tell you that. And it is the best way to support the channel. Now, let's talk about these credit cards. The third and final pillar of the 2026 financial reset hits close to home for millions and millions and millions of Americans. It's the crushing weight of high interest consumer debt. For years, this has been a slow burning crisis that we've just learned how to navigate around. But it has become full blown emergencies for many households. As of late 2025, Americans are shouldering over $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. But the size of the debt is only half of the story. The other half is the brutal interest. With the Federal Reserve having worked to manage inflation, a side effect has been a dramatic rise in the benchmark rates that credit card companies use. As a result, the average credit card interest rate is now hovering near a shocking 22%. For those with less than perfect credit, rates of 28% or higher is very common. So you might see yourself somewhere around 29% with a 670 credit score. Yeah, that shit sucks. Because good credit starts at 720. So if you're below 700, you're getting very shitty interest rates. And let's be clear about what these numbers mean. A 22% APR is not a normal cost of borrowing. It is a predatory level of interest designed to trap people in a cycle of debt. At these rates, if you only make the minimum payment, it's mathematically almost impossible to pay it off entirely. The interest accrues so quickly that it consumes most of your payments, with very little going to reduce what you actually owed. It's a financial treadmill designed to go nowhere. And this situation has become so dire that it has captured Washington's attention. There is a growing bipartisan recognition that these rates are not just a financial issue, but a moral issue as well. This has led to a significant legislative proposal, the 10% Credit Card Interest Rate Cap Act. This bill, introduced in both the House and the Senate this year, would do exactly what its name says: place a hard cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. To give it teeth, the bill also states that any lender who knowingly violates this cap would forfeit their right to collect any interest on the debt at all. Even the president has entered the fray, publicly calling on Congress to pass a cap on credit card rates. Now, it's crucial to understand, and as of right now today, this bill is still pending legislation. It has not been passed yet. Keyword yet. However, the fact that this conversation is happening at the highest level with bipartisan support signals a massive shift in the political will to address this problem. The problem is a population stretched to its breaking point by erroneous interest rates and the potential for a drastic governmental imposed solution that could arrive at any moment. This is the kind of situation that might resolve itself by the end of the fiscal year, where we will be recovering this as an I told you so. Shortly after we finish addressing the DHS bill, we will be working our way into working on the rest of this stuff. The agitation here is going to be twofold, because the first is the immediate pain of the current situation. Second is the profound uncertainty and potential for unintended consequences if a rate cap is passed. So let's start with the current pain. If you're one of the tens of millions of Americans carrying credit card balances, you are in a financial battle against the enemy with overwhelming force. Imagine you have a $10,000 balance at 22% APR. If you make a minimum payment of $250, about 183 of that payment is immediately vaporized by interest. So only $67 actually goes to pay down what you owe. You are essentially lighting up the $183 on fire every single month. And this isn't just a slow drain on your finances, it is a catastrophic leak that makes it impossible to save, invest, or get ahead. And this debt is a tax on your future. It's one of the things that we talked about earlier this week when we said pay down the highest interest rates first and then work our way down to the lowest rates. It was one of the things that I told you guys about paying off your monthly bill before the bill rolls over and down to $1 or $2, and then recycle the debt back into the card so that the card is riding at 80% in between payments, but it is at $2 right before it rolls over. You're still floating the money, but you're not getting hit with all those interest rates. Now, let's consider the agitation and pay attention to the proposed solution. A 10% rate cap sounds like a dream come true. It's fucking fantastic. You're saving 12% interest on your debt, but it would cut the cost of your debt by more than half, making you celebrate. However, the financial system is a complex ecosystem. And in one area can have an unexpected negative effect elsewhere. The banking industry warns of several consequences. First is a credit crunch. Banks argue that if they can only charge 10%, they will no longer be able to profitably lend to people with lower credit scores. This is going to be the result that could be impacting millions who currently have access to credit, albeit at high rates, could suddenly be cut off entirely. Second, the death of rewards, because credit cards and credit card rewards have cash back, airline miles, points that are largely funded by interest payments from cardholders who carry a balance. If that income stream is drastically cut, banks will almost certainly eliminate or slash these reward programs. The 2% cash back you get on groceries could become a thing of the past. Third, a change in risk calculation. For savvy people who use credit cards for the rewards and pay their balance in full every month, the game would change for them. The benefits would diminish while banks might look for other revenue like higher annual fees. You may go from credit cards that have no annual fee to annual fees that will be spread across monthly payments. Sort of like American Express that currently charges $650 a year, where you're paying almost $65 a month for the service. A lot more credit cards are going to have that particular expectation. You might see, well, I don't know if they're going to have bi-weekly fees, but everything happens on a monthly basis. When you look at the stash account, if you started it up yet, you will see that all of the investment opportunities pay you once a month. All of your credit card bills collect a payment once a month. You can make bi-weekly payments where you're paying on the interest and then paying on the principal, but likely the monthly service fee is going to be just that, a monthly service fee. So instead of having an annual fee where you would go from paying like $1,000 in a year, you can have higher credit limits hit you with that mandatory $100 a month for the year, which actually rounds up to about $1,200 for the year. Because when you think of bi-weekly fees in the same billing cycle, if they hit you with $35 at the beginning of the month, $35 at the end of the month, you're still paying $70. But if you were making a payment because of what you spent, and then they hit you with a fee during the billing cycle, yeah, you would be making a second payment. So the agitation is going to be this. You're caught between a rock and a hard place yet again. The current situation with 20% plus interest is an unsustainable crisis, but the most likely solution is a hard rate cap. While offering a little bit of relief, could tighten the solution would be navigating this debt and squeezing the required aggressive dual path approach. You must act decisively to solve today's high rate problems before it becomes tomorrow's issues, while positioning yourself to be a winner in the future with rate capped world. Path A is the go to war strategy for today's rates. As long as rates are at their current levels, you must treat your high interest credit card debt as a 5-alarm financial fire. It's your single biggest obstacle to building wealth. So you want to have the balance transfer gauntlet, where your number one weapon is the 0% introductory APR balance transfer offer. These cards let you move your high interest balance to a new card and pay zero interest for a promotional period, often 15, 18, or 21 months. During that time, 100% of your payments goes to your principal. Here's how you do it right. First, identify the best offer, the longest 0% period with the lowest transfer fee, typically 3 to 5%. Second, use the card matching tools on credit websites to see if you are pre-qualified to avoid unnecessary hard inquiries on your credit card. Third, and this is the most important rule, do not make a single new purchase on the balance transfer card. This card is a hospital for your debt, not a shopping mall. Fourth, calculate the exact monthly payments needed to pay off the entire balance before the 0% period ends, and set up automatic payments for that amount. If you're transferring over $10,000 on an 18-month offer, you must pay more than $556 a month every month. The goal is to be at zero when the promo period expires. Now, one of the things you want to pay attention to is that when you do a debt transfer on a card, usually the new card may try to force the closure of the old card. If you can avoid that, that would be fantastic, because your older line of credit still exists, your newer line of credit holds the debt, and you're running with the newer line of credit. But if you're closing out an older account, you're negatively impacting your credit history by starting up a new account with a shorter history and closing out an old account. And that is going to put you in a bad position. It will benefit you financially because it helps you reduce your interest rates, but it hurts you over the long term because it's going to put you in a position where you don't have the capabilities to fundamentally improve your credit score over the long term, because your goal, I'm gonna give you a 10-year goal right now. Your credit card history should only contain positive accounts that have existed for 7 years or longer. That's what you want. You do not want to close out an account that has existed for the last 5 or 7 years, because your credit report only utilizes any installment loans, like 20, 30, 40-year installment loans, student loans in good standings, mortgages in good standings, personal loans in good standings, and any debt that has been reasonably paid off within the last 7 years. So if you have a credit card that you started 5 years ago and you cancel that and start up a card yesterday, your average is going to include that 5-year stop and that yesterday start. If you can keep that 5-year card, transfer the debt over to a new card, and then with the new card, run the new card on top of the old card, you still have that 5-year long credit card that's gaining history, but you also have the new credit card, because like I told you guys before, if you were to start a new line of credit once every 6 months, you're going to be adding new lines of credit to the older, more existing lines of credit, but your average is going to be hopefully close to around 7 years. As long as you've got a 7-year average, you're doing all right. You start getting less than a 7-year average, you might want to slow down on applications for credit cards and slow down on changes that you're making to your account histories. I understand that you can get a short-term loan for 18 months, pay it off in 8. It'll be a boost on your credit score, but it's also going to show you that you have a year or less of an installment loan that is going to bring your average down faster. You would do better with 10 years if you can hold it for 10 years. If you can get an installment loan of any kind and hold it for 10 years, an SBA loan or anything to that effect, and hold it for 10 years, that improves your credit score. Yes, it's going to be more interest rates, but if you're able to rob Peter to pay Paul and put it somewhere and turn over a profit and put it towards the interest rates, you can actually pay it down to a magnitude where they can reevaluate the monthly payments so that you can still pay for the extra years. If you knock it down enough, quick enough, they reassess it after a while. And you can ask them to reassess it where your payments end up being lower so that your 10 years is still your 10 years. Okay. Now, step 2 is going to be the debt avalanche. If you have multiple card debts, the most efficient payoff method is going to be for this, the debt avalanche. And I told you guys about this before when we talked about assessing our emergency funds in our relationships on, I think, Friday, and when we talked about assessing our emergency funds for the shutdown. Um, you want to list all of your debts from highest interest rates to lowest interest rates, make minimum payments on all of them, then throw every extra dollar that you can find at the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that highest interest rate is gone, you can roll that entire payment amount onto the debt with the next highest interest rate. Now, if you're taking my strategy of paying that card down and then bringing it up to 80% in between the billing cycle, during the in the middle of the billing cycle there, you're able to take the stuff that you was putting on the other cards, put it on this card, pay those cards off, and then you can start gradually reducing the quantity of debt that you hold. Because and then prioritizing what you're actually putting back on these cards. Because if the only stuff that you're putting on these cards is basic bills, car insurance payments, utility payments, phone bill, stuff to that effect, if you put your car repair on there one time, that's a one-time thing. Once you pay that off and then charge to your card the next 2 months worth of utilities and charge to your card the next 6 months worth of insurance, you don't have those payments next month and the month after that. So when certain cards get paid off, they actually don't even have to be used again until you decide to put gas in your car. So you will find yourself, if you pay off the highest one, let the bill roll over, the things you need to buy coming soon, put it up to 80% of the card that was paid off, and then pay down the other cards, where you can take a whole paycheck and slap it on that bill. You can find yourself bringing these debts down quicker, rolling everything over. And even though you're still riding on debt, you're riding on debt with no interest, because if you paid the bill off down to $2, every time the bill rolls over, you're showing positive payment history, but you're also showing little to no balance on there. So 3 weeks out of the month, it might be riding at 80%, but the first couple of days of the billing cycle and the last 5 days of the billing cycle, it's got $2 on there. And you can ride that wave forever until you get stable. Once it's gone, roll everything over into the next highest bill, and this is going to create a snowball of payments that grows larger and faster as it rolls downhill, saving you the most interest possible. Path B is going to be preparing for that cap. While aggressively paying down your debt, you also need to prepare for a world where a 10% cap rate becomes reality. And this means making yourself as attractive as possible to lenders in a more restrictive credit environment. So, first step, you want to become an 800 credit score household. In a world with a 10% rate cap, banks will be much pickier. An excellent credit score will no longer be a nice to have identity. It will be a necessity. So your goal should be to have every adult in your household into the 800 club. How do you do this? Payment history is going to be king. Never, ever, ever miss a payment. It's 35% of your credit score. Set up auto pay for at least the minimum payment on every single account that you have. Even if it's not necessary to make the payment on that card, make sure that you have that auto pay sitting there to make sure that you're never missing a payment. If you're following my method and you're leaving $2 on the card and you're paying attention to the billing cycle rollover date, you set yourself a notification on your cell phone that gives you a message that says your bill rolled over yesterday. So today or tomorrow, you want to hurry up and put that $2 on the card, and you should have that $2 on the card if you have $50 worth of discretionary spending sitting in your checking account already. It's not that hard to do, right? And if you paid it within 2 days of the billing cycle rolling over, by the time you get the letter in the mail that says that you owe money, because typically what happens is that they cut the bill, they mail the letter, it takes 1 to 2 weeks for you to get it, and you have 1 to 2 weeks after you get the letter to pay the bill, which is 30 days after the bill was cut to pay the bill. And if you pay the bill before the bill rolls over, you don't have the interest. If the interest sits, if the charge sits on your account for an entire billing cycle, you're going to get hit with the interest. So you want to get rid of that if at all possible. Credit utilization is going to be the queen of your credit score. And this is the percentage of available credit you're using. A lot of people say keep it below 30%. It's always a good look. And if you keep it further below 10% for the best scores, that is going to be phenomenal. If you have to ride a certain level of debt that's going to roll over because you don't have a choice, keeping it at 10%, that's a good place to keep it at. As you pay down your debts, your utilization will fall and your score will rise as your utilization falls. Do not close out any old accounts if at all possible. The length of your credit card history matters. Even if you pay off an old card, do not close the account. You can cut up the card, but keep the card line open to preserve your credit history age. I wouldn't cut up the card because if I charge a Snicker bar on there, let the billing cycle roll over, and then pay that Snicker bar on there, that's payment history. But if you're going to utilize that credit card as a zero balance 100% of the time and not be tempted to charge to that account, cut up the card, melt it down, throw it in the trash. Because as long as that account stays active, well, active with a zero balance on it, where they're not requiring you to make transactions on it, that can keep you with a long history. It's better to have zero balance and no usage than to use it and forget to make a payment on it. By making an excellent credit score a top family priority, where if you teach this to your children at 8, 10, 12, 16 years old, you ensure that if a credit crunch happens, you'll still be at the front lines of receiving credit, because you got to understand that with that 10% credit hit, they might not be allowing 650 credit scores to get lines of credit anymore. They might not be allowing 680 credit scores to get credit cards anymore. You might get a secured credit card because it's backed by your capital, but that's the best you're going to get, which means you're putting up $10,000 worth of cash to get a $10,000 line of credit to maintain until you qualify to get a a another $2,000. I mean, not $2,000, but a 720 or 750 credit score. Okay. Now, step two, you want to build a cash buffer. In a world where credit may be tighter, cash is even more important. Your emergency fund is going to still be your firewall against going back into debt. So as you pay off your cards, redirect that payment, snowball it into building a robust emergency fund for 3 to 6 months. I would say 9 to 18 months. Make sure that that is for your essential living. This cash buffer makes you less fragile and less dependent on the credit cards. By pursuing both paths simultaneously, aggressively attacking current debt while obviously building your credit score and cash reserves, you are building an all-weather financial life. So you solve the immediate problem and you make yourself bulletproof against the potential negative consequences of the coming solutions. So there you have it. Those are the three massive interlocking pillars of the 2026 financial reset. First, we had the great PBM rebate revolution, a monumental shift that will redirect billions of dollars by becoming a detective during open enrollment and engaging with your employer, where you can ensure your fair share ends up back in your pockets. Second, the great climate cost reversal, dangerous trade-off of a small short-term savings for a lifetime of higher costs. By conducting a climate risk audit and making smart total cost of ownership decisions, you can insulate your family and align your investments with the inevitable transition to a more efficient economy. And third, the great debt squeeze, a battle against predators' interest rates today, coupled with the uncertainty of a potential credit crunch tomorrow. By aggressively paying down your debt now and making an excellent credit score a top priority, you can free yourself from the tyranny of interest. Each of these shifts is a powerful, but together they are representing a fundamental rewiring where all of this will aid you through the risks and provide you with a lot more opportunities that will be facing your families. What you do over the next 12 to 24 months will have an outsized impact on your financial well-being for the next decade. One of the other things that I was talking to some people about, like for example, electric vehicles, while EVs are going to be more beneficial going forward, take into consideration when you're living in cold climates. Batteries don't hold charges in cold climates the way they do in warm climates. If you've got a house with a garage and you've got an EV and you have a power station in your house where you can plug your car up, keep your car warm, keeping your battery warm, and keeping your car charged, you can see yourself saving money on fuel. And the offset impact of the trickle charge on your car battery is going to impact your light bill, but that's going to be way less than the quantity of money that you're paying for maintenance and repairs on a gas powered car. But if you're living in a cold climate, you live in an apartment complex and you don't have a way to charge your electric car where you would save on charging and plugging it up to your unit, you would find yourself more beneficial with a gas powered car. However, if you're going to get you a gas powered car, instead of buying you a brand new 2026 gas powered car, or in 2 years buying a brand new 2028 gas powered car, you might want to follow Steven's approach and buy you a 10-year-old EV efficient, something before 2025 fuel efficient car, certified pre-owned vehicle. Because at least if you're getting a gas powered car that's got high gas mileage and EPA certified, all this, that, and the third, you grab your car shield extended warranty insurance policy and make payments, or you can do one better. You can put extra money into your brokerage account to cover the high interest holds of if and when your car needs to be repaired. You put your car in the shop, you pull out a couple grand out of the brokerage account, and then you fix your car out of the brokerage account. You can do that too. Because the difference between an insurance policy and putting extra money in a brokerage account, if you were going to pay $250 or $300 a month on your insurance policy, if you put that extra $300 a month into your brokerage account on top of what you was going to put into your brokerage account, when you do need to fix your car, instead of taking out an insurance claim and hoping that they cover it, you can just pull the money out of your brokerage account and put it on your credit card because you paid the bill on your credit card after your billing cycle rolled over. Because if you've got a $5,000 credit card, redoing the head gasket should cost you $5,500. So you should be able to say, well, I'll put $2,500 on it this time. I'll come back in a couple of weeks and I'll put down $2,500 more and come and pick up my car. A mechanic shop is not going to tell you no. I can make a partial payment on it now. If I give you half now, you let me come back in a couple of weeks, I give you the other half. You can put down $2,500. You can put the $2,500 on your credit card, come back with the same credit card, put down another $2,500, come get your car, put the $2,500 back on that credit card. Your billing cycle is not hurt. You know what I mean? Because you can pay that bill 2 weeks before the billing cycle rolls over, put the money on the card a week before the billing cycle rolls over so that the card is paid off. So that when the billing cycle rolls over, you can put the other $2,500 on the card and then take a little bit more money and put it on the card and cover the card. So you can do this dance where you're benefiting from the credit level that you have without having so much money at the end of the cycle. The mainstream may not be connecting these dots, but you are now seeing the full picture and you have the warnings. And more importantly, you also have the playbook. Emerge from that stronger, wealthier, and more in control of your financial destiny. And this is a complex topic. And I want to know what you guys are thinking about it. Which of the three pillars are you most concerned about? I was most concerned about the credit card interest. What steps are you taking to prepare for this? Let me know in the comments. Your insights are incredibly valuable to this community. And if you want to continue this journey, I recommend that you watch the next video that we're going to be putting up, equivalent to the 5-step plan to build an 800 credit score. This is going to be the perfect step to solidifying your position for changes that we've discussed today. And you can now take the action while staying informed with everything that's going forward. And actually, I might put that up on a Tuesday show. So as we've seen, as much as we're worried about TSA agents not getting paid, we have to worry about a lot more changes that are coming up. And if we put forth the effort, the stuff that I've been talking to y'all about since September is snowballing into a massive economic change. And if you start putting forth the effort to maintaining those changes, you will find yourself in a more effective and more improved situation. I tell you guys on this show on a regular basis, as we close out every night of the week, that you have to find the things inside of your life that you can control, that you don't like, and make the changes to improve them. And then navigate around the things that you can't control. This is exactly what we're doing here. We're navigating around the things that we cannot control. Instead of sitting here talking about which political party is dumb and which one's not, I just talk about how the policies are going to fuck your wallet, and let's fix that before it becomes a problem. You don't just keep charging until you go bankrupt. You look at how this might exceed your capital you might want to pull out before you go broke. You don't drive your car till you run out of gas. You see that fuel light on and think, maybe I should pull over to a gas station so I can top this fucker off. In your financial life, you need to look at the changes that are happening in your economy, and you need to start making changes now to fix that. Because yeah, if you're still riding debt in 3 years, of course, you might find yourself in a situation where that 10% interest is going to feel so much better on your premium if you're making the same payments than what it would have been if you were riding 29% interest. But I also understand, why the fuck are you letting it roll over? Because you could have at any point in time down to a zero balance and then let the billing cycle roll over, pay it off, and then run it back up to 80%. Because ask yourself, what the hell are you carrying on your credit card debt anyway? Think about this. Student loans, utility bills, gas, car insurance, phone bill. Some people are now able to even pay their rent through their credit cards by paying online. You might be able to pay for car notes by paying online. The stuff that you're writing on your credit card bill is shit that rolls over every month. It's going to be a bill that has to be paid next month. So you make the payments that you need to make with your credit card, take all your cash, put it on your credit card, and pay that down. So you're not putting more money on that credit card than the amount of money you make in 30 days. And you want to pay that credit card down and then put the rest of the stuff on a credit card and ride that wave. But one thing that you have to remember is about 5 days before the billing cycle rolls over, you want to put that money on the card. That gives it 3 business days to roll over, recognizing a 2-day weekend, and sometimes a 3-day weekend, because today is Monday. And if you had a bank statement that was due on the 16th, the billing cycle cut last week Friday. So you can't make that payment. You can make the payment, but whatever was on there last week, Thursday or Friday, is on there now. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So the question that you have to ask yourself is, can I afford to let that ride for a little bit? Do I want to pay that convenience of interest to leave that money sitting on my credit card? Do I have it somewhere to pay it down, pay it off, not have that interest rate? However you go about doing this, you want to make sure that you are the least impacted by the changes that are being made going forward. And I've been telling y'all for a while now, anything that happens after 2025, as far as automobiles, you need to buy something before 2025. So if the newest vehicle you're going to buy right now in 26, 27, 28 is a 2024, that's it. That's where the line is drawn. That is where the line is drawn. Anything after 2024 is going to be a waste of money. At least for the next 10 to 15 years. Anything after 20. So 2035, it might start making more sense to get a 2025. And that's only going to make sense if you're driving for Uber or Lyft, because Uber and Lyft have a strict requirement that your car can only be so old. And after it ages out of their system, they're going to stop allowing you to drive. So with Uber and Lyft, that's the only reason why you're buying a car that is less than 10 years old. And with the quantity of miles that you're putting on a car doing Uber and Lyft, a car is only going to last 3 to 5 years anyway. So you would have to buy a car that would be 5 or 6 years old that you're going to ride the wheels off. But if you buy you a 20-year-old car, it's not going to hurt. So that means if you're buying a 20-year-old car, you can buy you a 2024 in 2044. And still get a better deal than a 2025. It's a $10,000 or $15,000 difference when you first buy it brand new, but it's going to be a $1,000 or $1,500 difference when you buy it used. And after 2026, not only is it going to be that $1,000 $2,000 difference, if you get it used, it's going to be a big dip from 50 miles per gallon down to 10 miles per gallon, 18 miles per gallon. I'm walking through the dealership and I'm reading the miles per gallon. If that fucker's got bad gas mileage, if it's got less than 30 miles per gallon on it, I don't even want it. That right there is a deal breaker for me because of putting high mileage on these vehicles. So you got to think about that. Put your money where your interests are. Now, that's all we have for tonight. First thing I'm going to tell you is, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. While I give you guys this information to make you guys higher value men, ladies, being a male-driven podcast, you too can utilize this information to make yourselves higher value women as well. What you have to do, though, is prioritize your 20-year plan. Find out where you want to be at in the next 20 years. Find out what it costs to get you there. Start putting forth the effort to make the changes you need to meet those expectations. And if you find a partner along the way, always keep your eyes and ears open. If you find a partner along the way that has the same drive and the same ambitions and the same knowledge and skill set, or similar knowledge and skill set, because they don't have to know everything that you know, but if they know different things that you don't know that can help you get better at what you're trying to do, that person can benefit your end goal. And as long as the person you're linking with will benefit your end goal, that is a person that you can capitalize with, not capitalize on. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.